All right, we're gonna go with that. Let's see what's happening.
The problem with Switch 2 is that the response time of the pixels, or at least the way it's being driven, is not adequate. And as a result, you actually do see a lot of sort of trails blur on
Damn.
things. So if you're playing, say, a side-scrolling 2D platform game, like imagine you're playing Sonic on there, Sonic Mania. You got this checkerboard field. You've got a lot of contrasting colors. As it moves, the image essentially leaves behind. If you film at, say, 240 frames per second for like
Oh
a
my
slow motion
god.
video, you essentially get 4 individual ghost images of everything on the screen. Your eyes perceive this as blur. It's actually slower than the original Switch 1 LCD from 2017. This is what surprised me the most, because the nature
What the?
of modern LCDs, I'm genuinely confused as to how this is the case. It shouldn't be that much worse, but it is. And as a result, it means that 2D games, especially, or anything with a lot of lateral motion, just kind of smears in a messy way.
That's crazy. I guess the thing is I don't know why. Like, why is that?
The problem with Switch 2.
How do we go to this original video? Is there a way to actually do that? Maybe not. Let's just go look and see. Digital Foundry. Oh, that's not how you do. Switch 2. Because I don't know, right? 2 hours. Oh my god, we're not gonna watch this. Let's see if they talk about it. Because the thing is that if I find a Switch 2, I'm probably gonna buy a Switch 2. Why? Because I'm an idiot. But you know, I've talked about Switch 2 before, and how I'm not super interested in it, and it's really just because of games. But when I see something like this, and I see that it's actually like performing worse in any way possible, that's such an L, because there's so many Switches out there. Like the OLED Switch is still out there, and you're only missing out on like a couple games and a couple upgrades. And you've probably already played all the games you want to play. So yeah, you could go back and play like Zelda, but if it's going to perform worse in some ways, then what's the deal? That's really disappointing. But you know, Nintendo's so big. It's, again, I've said this before, I'll say it again. They're kind of like the new Apple. Like, all they got to do now that having the Switch is like, having a Switch now is kind of like fashionable. You know what I mean? Like, it's like an iPhone, you know, like an iPhone is a utility based thing, and that's a big selling point for it. But I think it keeps its price, and it's expensive because it's like a fashion item. It's like you get the new one. It's like getting your new handbag. You know what I mean? Like the marketing behind iPhone and Apple products, like the expense, you are paying for some convenience, but it's also kind of the cool thing to do. And it's like, how much dollar for dollar, like, does that matter? And I think the Switch 2, like, I think Switch in general could become that, or Nintendo could become that. I hope that they don't. I hope the next Switch is some kind of weird morphin machine, like a Wii, that's like captures the attention of everybody, like the first Switch did, or the Wii did. Something innovative that's not just an upgrade. I mean, I know that Nintendo went to Super Nintendo, right? So it's kind of what this is in my mind. But the difference is there was a big leap between the Nintendo and the Super Nintendo, like graphically and power and things like that. So you hate to see that this is potentially performing worse in any way possible, especially with like a $500 price tag. $500? And you're barely like, and you're like living in a PS4 power mode. Just checking the temperature. It's a little hot in here. Let's see what this guy says here from Digital Foundry, just real fast.
Is response time. Essentially, when dealing with LCDs, there's two things that you have to look out for with blur on a flat panel display. There's persistence blur caused by the sample and hold nature of the panel, which is that it's not like clearing the screen after each line. It's like drawing it frame is drawn, that frame is held until the next frame is drawn. And
Okay.
due to the way our eyes work, that actually causes sort of a blur in motion. All flat panels basically suffer from this by default, OLED included. But LCDs also have to worry about the response time of the pixels and like gray to gray, black and
Is the Switch 2 even OLED? That's like another thing. Like, I don't think it is. It does not have an OLED screen. Like, how is this the best selling console ever? Or like best selling in a short period of time? Like, what is the reasoning here? Is that like a tariff thing? Like, how is OLED not the baseline at this point? Like, I mean, they're gonna have. Did they hold it just for another upgrade? Because they're like, well, people bought the OLED Switch, so we can just do that and nothing else, and charge $600. I mean, I guess maybe they're thinking like, well, if you got an OLED screen, like play it docked. I don't know. It's just kind of silly to me that it's LCD, just in general.
white, different the transition speed.
Silly.
One pixel that is on screen is able to disappear from the screen. Slower response time means that you sort of get these like ghost images, pixels left behind, which creates the sensation of blur. Anybody that picked up an original PSP 1000 will certainly remember what that looks like when it's quite bad. But also things like the Game Boy Advance AGS 101, the coveted backlit screen, compared to the front lit and non-lit Game Boy Advance, the motion clarity is dreadful. But as systems improved, as LCDs improved, we saw response times generally increase. And they're not amazing, but I think LCD technology has reached a point where motion is generally okay. And of course, you can do strobing and whatnot as well, which of course Nintendo's not going to touch due to fear of flicker, I'm sure.
Like, I'm having a strobe right now.
The Switch 2 is that the response time of the pixels, or at least the way it's being driven,
Yeah, here it is
is
again.
not adequate. And as a result, you actually do see a lot of trails, blur.
This is a brand new machine.
It's side-scrolling 2D platform game. Like imagine you're playing Sonic on there, Sonic Mania. You got this checkerboard field. You've got a lot.
I wish they would just show this. I wish they would show a game
behind. If you
like a 2D game,
40 frames per second for like a slow motion video, you essentially get 4 individual ghost images of everything on the screen. Your eyes perceive this as blur. It's actually slower than the original Switch 1 LCD from 2017. This is what surprised me the most, because the nature of modern LCDs, I'm genuinely confused as to how this is the case. It shouldn't be that much worse, but it is. And as a result, it means that 2D games especially, or anything with a lot of lateral motion, just kind of smears in a messy way. And so I had some theories. My first thought was that, maybe it's doing 60 hertz in a 120 hertz container. But that really, on a sample and hold display, that shouldn't cause that much extra blur. It's only become...
All right, what we're going to do here is we won't go too much into that. Let's see if there's like any more. Like, I would love to see a game example of this. I'm sure that they would explain all of this. Obviously go watch the Digital Foundry if you have time and you want to look into it. It's super interesting. I think these guys are great. It's always a great resource before you buy a console or something like that. Like, they're talking about battery power. Time until shutdown, 2 hours. What the hell is this machine? Oh my God. That battery life is bad. Yeah, I'm interested about the download speeds. Well, that's way better. Way better. I didn't notice, like, on the original Switch, the download speeds were pretty bad, but that is way better. Frame rate for The Witcher, I mean, it looks better, right? 30 versus 21. Again, we're not going to watch all of this, but go check it out if you're interested. What are they playing? Arkham? Let's say this is Arkham. Say it's running 30 versus 25. Man, I just want to live in a world where everything's 60. Like, if you want to do 30, like, do it as like artistic, but like, I hate that things are still 30. A racing game. You know, Nintendo, they're all about the racing games. We're not gonna, yeah, UI issues, virtual game card. Yeah, that's awesome, man. I'm actually gonna give these guys a like on this one. Yeah, I'll give Pirate Nation a like. Sad that a $500 console in 2025 has this issue. Honestly, man, I can't type today. Honestly, OLED should be standard. I mean, it should be baseline standard. Maybe there's an argument for it, but if there is, I don't know.